Hey all, Hipper here. So today we're taking out the classic cruiser, the Atago. I mean the first premium tier 7 cruiser available in the game. And although it has struggled a little bit in, the last year or so, it is still one of the best overall and the best rounded cruisers in the game. Of course, it does not have a radar, which is probably its biggest problem. Because if you're in, a game with smart destroyer players, yeah, they can pretty much just, run circles around you, and there really isn't that much you can do, because they're never going to let themselves within 5 kilometers of you, and of course that's a detriment. But it's not really the ship's fault. I mean, the ship doesn't have a radar, and I mean that's just the way it's balanced. So you can't really hold it against it. I mean, not all cruisers should have radar, and Atago is more of a like a ship that fights battleships and destroyers once they are spotted. It's not really a cruiser that can spot destroyers that easily, though. Cruiser versus cruiser is probably where Atago is at its worst, honestly, because to get the full firepower of this ship into action, you need to get all 10 guns on target, and that means showing broadside in Atago, or at least almost show broadside like I'm doing here. Because if you just, kite away at a steep angle, or, go full bow in, you can only fire 4 of your 10 barrels, and that's just not enough at all to catch up with the damage output of most other cruisers, and especially all the new cruisers that arrived in 2020, 21 and 22. I mean, they're all like crazy DPM cruisers, and they can all out DPM Atago, unless you get to fire all your 10 guns broadside, and then you can get that very nasty alpha damage. You do have to wait another 15 seconds before you can fire again, and then that means when you're up against cruisers like Ochakov or Cleveland or Des Moines, for that matter, like, you are at a severe disadvantage. And even if you catch them by surprise, like you come out of concealment, you fire a nice AP broadside at them, if you don't one-shot them, then they have 15 seconds of just hammering you, and that can easily mean you lose half your health before you're able to fire again. So cruiser versus cruiser, I tend to avoid engagements like that in Atago, unless it's a cruiser I'm sure I can deal with. It means like any tier 6 cruiser basically. Tier 7 and up, I prefer to tend to deal with any other ship before any tier 7 cruisers, or worse, any Alaskas or anything like that. And of course, target pretty much number 1 in Atago is battleships, because it's just quite easy to burn them down in the ship here, and it's unless they are legendary battleships, it's really hard for them to actually get some sort of damage back at you, because Atago is really tanky for a Japanese cruiser. And you can see this North Carolina here. He's really had quite a hard time. So we're just gonna take opportunity of this destroyer here coming around the corner, and see, this is another problem here. If you don't get a one-shot kill, well, it's a problem, because you have to wait nearly 15 seconds before you can fire again. And sure, I'm very lucky here. This guy here, I don't know what he's doing, but again, I don't get him. So he burns out, and it's a very good ship to one-shot destroyers, but if you don't actually take them out in that one salvo, you're in a bit of a tight spot, and it does make the ship challenging. And it excels at burning down battleships, but there's not really that much to be gained from burning battleships, other than buffing your damage. It's actually more beneficial to take out a cruiser like Hipper or Prince Eugen, and then use the AP shells at the battleship superstructure when you have them broadside, of course. You know, to get some really chunky damage in there that is really hard to repair, because fire damage can just be repaired. It's not really like, unless you take the battleship out, they can pretty much repair everything back. And I mean, yeah, that's nice if you're just farming damage, but if you actually want to sink the ship, then it takes a bit of work. Atago also doesn't really have any like gimmicks of its own anymore. I mean, when the ship came out, I think it was the only tier 7 cruiser that had a heal, which was like very, very cool back then, and that's actually the reason I switched, because I was mainly playing Charles Martel back then, but then I just realized, okay, the heal on Atago just makes it so much better. So I switched to Atago, and then I pretty much played just this ship for the next year or so. But then, like, we got all these newcomers into the game, especially Cleveland. Kutuzov was the first one to really, like, totally just not make Atago obsolete, but, you know, offer something or the same that Atago does in a slightly better package. And that's still the issue these days. I mean, Atago is super powerful, but the slow reload and the lack of radar, it kind of hurts it in, you know, most battles really. Unless you can just farm battleships all game. But like I said earlier, that doesn't really do that much, especially the legendary battleships that can just shrug off your incoming HE shells and just repair later, if they don't, you know, completely shatter every incoming shell on the thick armor. Atago is definitely a ship that's going to benefit from the upcoming Tier 8 inclusion, along with the cruiser I mentioned before, the Charles Martel, because they really have quite a bit of a tough time dealing with the legendary, especially the legendary battleships, because it just takes so long to get rid of those battleships. I mean, a Cleveland or a Des Moines, it's not too bad because you can burn down a battleship quite quickly in those ships, and the same with Ochakov. But Atago and Martel, less the case with Martel because it has a fast reload, but it still does take far too long to actually be worth it. Really, you're better off just go hunting for destroyers, which is really hard without a radar. So again, at this point here, we have 2 caps at, you know, like 2/4 or 2/3 of the map, and that's why right now there's no point in pushing. Just stick around here where I have some cover and just slowly whittle down these enemy ships here, and then of course if they try to push in to grab the middle cap, then it's torpedo time. And I see this over and over and over in my battles when you have a situation like this. Like right now the blue team has the advantage. Like, we just have to defend, we don't have to push, we don't have to do anything really, just sit here in cover and then wait for the reds to make a mistake. The longer we wait, the more points we get, and the bigger the chance of us just winning without actually having to do anything. But you can see the battleship here, he's pushing in the Iowa, and I mean that's a mistake. That's a mistake in this situation here. There is absolutely no reason to push in. Just pick like a defensive position and pick off the red ships if they decide to push in, because pushing is risky. That's where, you know, you take damage, and you know, you can get crossfired, and destroyers can torp you and stuff like that. It's better just to set up a defensive position and then you have your teammates protect you. But since the Iowa is pushing in and I just got my 4th kill there, I'm thinking, well, I kind of want a Kraken, so let's just push in and follow these guys. Normally I wouldn't do it. I would stay, just like I did before, behind the island and to see if I couldn't set some fires once in a while, and just wait for that Kansas to try to come and then torp him. But I'm getting greedy, and I want to have my my Kraken here. So there's a Kansas and there's a destroyer somewhere around here. Now the destroyer is obviously what I really want because he's low on health and he's in the cap somewhere because it's contested. There's the high caliber, and it shouldn't be that hard to top this battle here off with a Kraken. But turns out that it's a little bit harder than I thought. And that's the Confederate right there. So all we need now is the Kraken, and we'll have a trifecta, which is the 3 best medals you can have, I think, except for the solo warrior in a standard battle, not in arena. That's the fake solo warrior. We don't like that one. So anyway, normally I wouldn't push a Kansas, but like I said, we have a destroyer left, and he actually looks like he's playing very, very smart. So I'm not too worried about getting sunk here. It doesn't really matter. We have won this battle here, and destroyer, he is not going to make a bad move. So I'm putting a lot of faith in him in my Kraken hunt here. But like I said, normally I wouldn't push a Kansas like this, because I really fear Kansas. It's just so accurate, this ship here, and yeah, it's slow, and like it turns like, well, pretty much a landlocked country, but it is insanely accurate, and it has 12 guns. I mean, look at that there. That was actually a very inaccurate salvo for a Kansas. And usually when I pick these fights here, I take a lot of damage, simply because the ship is just so accurate, and it's just really hard to actually dodge any of the shells because there's 12 of them. It's kind of like an Amagi, more or less. So instead, I'm thinking, okay, I'm hoping this destroyer is coming around the corner here, and I can just, you know, blab him and then get my Kraken that way. Don't really want to spend more time on that Kansas there. But then I realize, like, the destroyer is spotted up there, so unfortunately that means that the destroyer gets him, and there's only the Kansas left now to finish my Kraken off. And I just go, okay, fine, well, I'll just keep going then. And he's healed a little bit, which is even more annoying. And I just need a few fires going on him, and that should, you know, finish it off. And I think the destroyer is being nice here, actually. He's letting me, or at least trying to let me, grab this Kraken here, because he's moving away from the action. And I'm kind of taking that as, okay, go ahead, see if you can get this Kraken here. And if you can't get it, then I'll just disappear into the blue and we'll still win. And I say, okay, yeah, well, let's go for it. But the next salvo here is going to take me out, because like I said, I'm too close to this Kansas here. I kind of bet the whole farm on the destroyer coming around the corner there before, but as you can clearly see here, that wasn't the case. And I'm not going fast enough, and the distance to the Kansas, it's just not enough. So unfortunately I buy it there, but still a very good battle here. Almost 150,000 damage, high caliber, Confederate, 4 kills, nothing to be ashamed of, and nothing wrong with, you know, going for the Kraken if you get the opportunity. If you do, just make sure that you know, your team knows what's going on, and they're not gonna YOLO to their death. You can see the destroyer here, he has like probably 1 hit point left, and he's just taking it easy. He knows he's gonna win. He just has to wait for the points all the time to whittle down, and then that'll be an easy win. And of course you can shoot a few torpedoes at the Kansas. Maybe you get a lucky hit, maybe you don't. Doesn't really matter. So Atago is definitely still a fun ship to play. It doesn't have, you know, the potential it used to, and he's actually almost getting him here with the torpedo, the destroyer player, unfortunately. That's like just a little bit sad, because it would have been nice for him to finish off with a kill here, but that's just not going to happen. But like I said, Atago is still one of the more enjoyable cruisers to play, but it's just not, the carry potential is not there to the same degree as something like Cleveland or Des Moines or any of the other cruisers, like or Chekhov for that matter. So anyway, 33,300. No, not 33,000. 3,333 XP. High caliber, Confederate, and 4 kills. So hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you out there.